Hello, everyone. This week I wanted to give you a few thoughts as we think again about the reflections on churchless Christianity. Um, that many of the things that prevented the Indian Christians from coming to church were very simple things. And are there very simple things in Japanese culture that we are overlooking or that we are using something foreign that really has uh, no effect on our theology at all, but just are simple cultural things that'll make a huge difference in the Japanese feeling very comfortable there and that this is Japanese. For instance, local Japanese here in Hawaii are very different from they are in Japan. The older are mostly second generation Hawaii Japanese. And yet, the second generation Hawaii Japanese have a lot of Japanese cultural things in their lives because their parents had come from Japan. They usually know some Japanese language. For instance, my father learned Japanese from his mother, although when he went back to Japan, people laughed at him and said he's speaking Meiji era Japanese. But they do have a lot of Japanese culture in their lives. And so at the funerals for these older Japanese, I have a few friends that have been using culture-specific evangelism and have been amazingly successful in seeing these older Japanese come to Christ. Now, these older Japanese are notorious in Hawaii for being difficult to come to Christ. But what this friend of mine does, who's a great musician, is he will begin the funeral by just playing traditional beloved Japanese songs. And I don't know what it would be in Japan today, but for these older Japanese, it's like Sakura and Sukiyaki and songs like this that have nothing to do with Christianity at all. But they're not about the devil, they're just beautiful old Japanese songs. And he'd sing them, and he's very good, and the older Japanese are just getting misty eyed and love it. And then he preaches the gospel to them. And you see, this is a very simple thing. But what it does is, when he starts preaching the gospel, it's in the background of their minds that this God loves Japanese music. He loves Japanese. And when he's talking about this God, there's not that foreignness about it anymore. And he's had 20, 30, 50 of these older Japanese at funerals raise their hands to accept Christ, which is very unusual, again, for Japanese to make that kind of show to raise their hands to say that they accept Christ. And another friend of mine talked about how this God is the God of all creation and the God of the Japanese. He talked about Ame no Minakanushi and the tea ceremony and so on. And when he gave the altar call, 50 of these older Japanese raised their hands. He was shocked. But again, there are very simple things that made a big difference in these older Japanese accepting Christ. Again, very different in Hawaii from Japan, but we need to look and see the same things for the Japanese in Japan, the songs they love, different cultural things that will make them see that this God is our God and loves them and is comfortable with them. Another thing to look at is the Japanese really like more tactile things. If you look at the Japanese religion, there's a lot of things you do and symbolism that is there. And our Western style is more just talking, and maybe we need less talking and more symbolic things to do that show who Christ is and the gospel, and something tactile that people can do and be a part of as a group. I've always thought that the best type of church in Japan would be a small home church, a place where people would just sit and have tea together and talk, because being within the wall or being uchi, it's really that's where people will reveal their true selves and who they are, is within the wall and when it's uchi. And so why would we want to have a church, a mega church or a big setting where it's too big for them to reveal their true selves. A big church like that would need to have small groups where people can, again, feel safe and they can reveal who they really are. And so I've always felt that this was a good model for the Japanese church. This week we'll be starting to read From Buddha to Jesus. And as we're reading the book, and we can think about, are there peace childs within the culture of Japan? God is not a respecter of persons. He's left things in every culture. Are there peace childs? Like we found in Hawaiian culture, many different types of peace childs. Maybe not one that had the impact that the peace child had for Don Richardson among the Sawi people, but many different things that culminate to be a really big impact on the people. So are there peace childs within Buddhism and Shintoism and other things within the Japanese culture that we can look at and find? As we read From Buddha to Jesus this week, we'll find that there's so many keys there for the Hinayana Buddhists from the Tripitaka. But we need to expand our brains a little bit as we're reading this and think about Japanese Buddhism. Japanese Buddhism is so different from the original Indian Buddhism. In fact, Indian Buddhists would say this is not Buddhism, this is Japanese. And this is what we need to have people think about Christianity. When they say this is not Western, quote, cultural Christianity, this is Japanese. That's what they need to see in our Christianity. See, because Buddhism is a foreign religion, just like Christianity is a foreign religion. But Buddhism is looked at as Japanese. In fact, most Japanese think to be Japanese is to be Buddhist. So how did this foreign religion get to become Japanese, whereas Christianity is thought of as foreign, when there is evidence that Christianity or elements of Christianity could have been there before Buddhism? One more thought I want to make here before we end this session is that many people are telling me that the young Japanese don't care about culture anymore, so we don't have to worry about cultural things. But again, this is really misinterpretation of what they see in the young Japanese. The young Japanese are very international and have a lot of Western culture that they use. But if you ask them, you'll find out they say they love their culture. And they love the matsuris, they love dressing up in their kimonos for the matsuris and enjoy those times. And they need to have an identity. They need to know who they are. And so, although we don't have to go back to the wearing the kimonos every day and the old style music, but again, they use the koto and the shamisen in rock and roll today, and it's very popular in Japan. They cannot just use other people's culture. To really come to Christ, they have to be Japanese. Even though it's modern, even though it's a fusion, it still is Japanese. So I hope you enjoyed this week and the reading in Buddha to Jesus.